Governor, thanks for sitting down with us to talk about these latest developments in this ongoing effort to bring the Chicago Bears to Indiana. After the Bears put out their statement yesterday announcing that the board of directors had made this vote, you put out a statement saying, Hoosiers, help me welcome the Bears to Indiana. How confident are you that this is a done deal?
So let's look at the context. 5 to 6 years ago, they were reaching out to their own governor, their legislature, city of Chicago. And that was so much time, and I think all of them just figured there was no urgency. You get to about 3 years ago, I think they cranked it up again. It was kind of like their second effort. And then 6 months ago, we didn't reach out to them, they came to me. And when we sat at the residence with the entire McCaskey crew, the brothers that constitute most of the board of directors, they couldn't believe how easy it was. Now the clock was coming into play. They got a lease that runs out in 33. And of course, they want everything, including the stadium, built way before that. I think, as I've said often, we're moving at the speed of business, and they were running into typical bureaucratic meandering, and here we are. I've done enough real estate before I became a senator. Being a governor is more like running a business, and it really comes in handy in something like this, because I could sense all along there was only one concern I had early, is it a bargaining ploy? And I just brought that out the first time we met, and they said, no, we need to have an honest discussion. We're looking at it as a viable alternative. And then when in, I think it was February, and we get the bill passed, I asked them to make a public statement that showed the next degree of being serious about it. And if you look at it, that occurred, and then the bill passed that day. So we had been talking twice a week ever since the meeting back before Christmas. So twice a week communication kept us in touch to make sure there weren't going to be gaps along the way. And we've been kind of connecting the dots all along. And I knew it had to come soon because the league was pushing them to actually do something. And for them, 5 months of their own legislature being in session, and it ended on the last day to where the House didn't take up the Senate bill, and that then left them with nothing. Plus, in all this time, we're a AAA credit rating state, hottest economy in the Midwest, run our government much more efficiently now. I think they see it would be a whole lot different next 50 years with a place like Indiana versus being there. That doesn't mean there's, in any real estate deal, I always talked about due diligence, checking off things that you had to get to a different point down the road. On something of this magnitude, that generally is in the category of a year or more. And when they knew that they weren't going to get that done, even to the point where they were getting a complete deaf ear from the city of Chicago, I think the city of Chicago wanted to do something, but I think they clearly didn't want to be there because of all of the issues Chicago's having, like with crime, the fact that their budget is dominated by a lot of debt service. So they wanted to get out of that jurisdiction, and then Arlington Heights are us, and that's when they ran into issues with their state government.
Speaking of that lease, it's our understanding, I think, to buy it out would be about $90 million. Will Indiana have anything to do with that in providing the funding?
So when it comes to what we may need to do to help, we're in a spot after we got through that false budget forecast that disrupted the whole 25 session. That never did make sense to me. It was focused on tariffs only. And we now, from the December forecast, have a horizon looking brighter than it ever has in our state with structural surpluses. When I came in, I pledged I was going to get state government back on the wagon. So we're going to get dividend here in our state on the cost side, and we've got the fastest economic growth in the Midwest, lowest unemployment rate. So when it comes to anything else we might need to do there, we can justify it, but it'll be along the lines of making sure it makes sense, not just because they need it, but we are so much further down the trail now to where a lot of this is going to be site selection within the site they're looking at in Hammond. And by the way, the mayor of Hammond, Mayor McDermott, has done a wonderful job making sure they didn't run into any roadblocks there, like they've been running into in Chicago and even Arlington Heights.
So helping them pay out of that lease, is that a possibility?
I'm not making any commitments. We'll never do that. I'm going to be bargaining in good faith with them, just like we have to date, and everything else extrapolated. No one thought it could happen. We've been communicating with them twice a week since before Christmas. Here we are.
When did you learn about Thursday's vote? What was your immediate reaction to the news? And since that vote, what conversations, if any, have you had?
I was actually at the residence, and we had an event up there Thursday evening, got the phone call, and knew it was going to be embargoed until around noon yesterday. And that's how quickly things occurred. I knew that we've been doing so much that got us to the point where I thought it was maybe going to be a week or so, but I did know they were going to have a board meeting on Thursday, and we said there's not really a whole lot more that we need to do because we've been checking all that stuff off. So that tells me that there's even more forward momentum. And think about all we've just talked about, for them to go back and start over with the state of Illinois. They don't want to be in the city of Chicago. There wouldn't be enough room. Here, you're going to have a beautiful piece of property that's got plenty of space for tailgating, all the multi-use investment that's going to come along with it, and you'll see the Chicago skyline in the distance. So, like anything, and I've been very reserved about getting ahead of our own skis, we're just looking at a place that's come a long way in a relatively short period of time.
So are there still major hurdles to get over to
No,
make this?
I wouldn't say major hurdles. I'd say that there are going to be some attempts, obviously, by Illinois, but when you ended session after 5 months, I think it would give anyone that's dealing with something like that real pause about even looking seriously at some type of last-ditch effort when we've been moving methodically and easily to where we are now.
Is there anything in writing, contracts that outline more details about what's coming next? Has anything been signed?
So everything we've done has been basically on a memorandum of understanding, the legislation we put out there as the template. And then when I talk about due diligence, the formalities, land exchanging hands, everything being wrapped up there, we're down to not much of that left. And so there'll be other formalities like there would be in any real estate transaction, but most of the heavy lifting is behind us.
Have you given the Bears any timeline about how you'd like to see this go?
Why would we need to? Because the urgency was from 3 years ago on the part of Illinois. When we move as fast as we have moved to get things done, the rest of it will flow with plenty of time and ability to do it right and get it done. The issue of timing was clearly an urgency, something that was their problem and issue, not ours.
What does success look like 10 years from now if this happens?
Well, look at what they've sketched out in terms of, look what this is going to mean to northwestern Indiana. The region is like a suburb of Chicago. When you look at the logistics, it'll be easier for most folks that live in the city, especially the south side, to come down to Hammond rather than fighting your way through traffic to get to Arlington Heights. And it looks like for what was arguably the most vibrant part of our state's economy until steel went whooshing out of the country. Gary was our second largest city. Now it's shrunk from 180,000 to 60,000. Fort Wayne is the fastest growing city in the Midwest. We're the strongest economy in the Midwest. And for the one area, Gary, Hammond, Whiting, East Chicago, that used to be the pinnacle of our economy, they now have the chance to get back to where they once were.
What's your response to folks, the people that, Prosperity Indiana critiqued this, people who say the money could be better spent on roads, schools, other local priorities?
So you're not going to, number one, I mentioned it earlier, there's not a state in better shape to be able to address early childhood learning, pre-K, stuff we need to do better at, public health, infrastructure. And this state government was run better than most other state governments, but all came through COVID off the wagon. Needed to get back running things, not based upon all that federal largesse that was borrowed and spent. A lot of local governments, school districts got used to that. I ask all our agencies to start running themselves more efficiently. We're getting a dividend, I can't stress this more than anything else, in just a year and a half that's going to be on running government more efficiently, maybe close to $1 billion a year. And when I reorganized Indiana Economic Development Corporation, we are now, in just a year and a half, growing faster, where we were closer to our peer group states, twice as fast as Illinois and Ohio, 3 times as fast as Kentucky, 6 times as fast as Michigan. And we got a lot of good things going on. I expect those to even get better. That's going to enable us to invest in a lot of different parts that we need to do better at. And we're already considered one of the best states in the country from everything that we're talking about.
Can you guarantee that Hoosiers won't be left holding the bag if the revenue doesn't materialize the way we think it's going to?
So then you do like you do in any business. You adjust and you find out ways to take whatever you have to work with, and just don't assume that there's not things you can do. And it's always going to be like it is in the real world. You've got 49 other competitors in terms of how states run, and some are going to do better than others. And my point all along, from the time I got involved in government, in politics, take the things that work in the real world, realize it is different, government from business, but the places that are being run, I think with the concept, and then with the sensitivity of knowing that there's a difference between the two, those are the states that are working best, where people are moving to because they're voting with their feet. Indiana is the only state in the northern half of the country that people are moving into, net migration in. You mostly hear that with Florida, Texas, and now Tennessee. And they have a lot of other attributes, weather, coastlines. We're getting it because it's a great place to raise a family, especially start a business that's reasonable when it comes to how the government treats its own people. Speaking
of real world scenarios, if costs surrounding building this stadium rise significantly, as we see happen sometimes with projects, who's responsible for those overruns?
Those are things we'll work out. We're in kind of like a joint venture, so to speak, with the Bears. When it's worked as it has to date, because it's been honest brokering on both sides, we've made it easy on our end. They could clearly see the differences now between 50 years in a place where they couldn't even get a conversation going in 5.5 years. That is what I'd look at in terms of anything that you're concerned about. And we take nothing for granted. I've been very reserved in terms of not getting ahead of our skis along the way. Friday at noon was a big punctuation in terms of the culmination of what we've done in 6 months that they couldn't get the first base on in 5.5 years.
Is welcoming the Bears to Indiana and asking Hoosiers to do that not getting ahead of the skis a little bit if it's not a done deal?
That's just saying that, hey, to date, we welcome to where we've come so far. It doesn't take anything for granted.
So if Illinois comes back with a new offer, I mean, we've heard lawmakers say they want to try and get it right. The mayor of Chicago has reportedly said the city's going to keep talking to the Bears. How are you confident Indiana still wins the competition?
We would be there. I built my whole life on embracing competition. I know a lot of times it frustrates people when you say you love transparency, you love competition. Well, you better get used to it. I think it's important in government. Government, remember, is a monopoly. There's only one of them, and you got to then make sure it doesn't run like that in terms of how it treats its own citizens through constituent services, through your agencies. I've been a big believer in, I try to learn from people that do it better. And in the process, if something does change, we have to react to it. That's the real world. That's what most places have to do, and you don't sit on your hands. You get down and work it out, make the case just like we've been doing.
I know you're still in your first term as governor, but is bringing the Chicago Bears to Indiana a legacy piece for you? Are you thinking about that?
Well, sometimes it's going to be one of the most pleasant things, obviously, you can do as governor, being lucky enough to be the governor when the Hoosiers win the national championship. I call those windfalls. I mean, you're not going to be able to build anything of significance on stuff that wouldn't occur somewhat on an annual basis. I'm more interested in, like I did in my own business, fixing healthcare. We're no governor, the federal government hasn't been able to do it. We've actually controlled costs in the business I used to run 18 years ago. Haven't had premium increases in all that time. Have healthier employees, fixed healthcare. I'm going to try to do that here. I'm going to try to have our government be more entrepreneurial in what it does, and I'll measure it by how many more of our own kids we can get to come back to our state, which Maureen and I did many, many years ago, smartest thing we ever did. It'll be based upon that. Fastest economy in the Midwest, place that's now having people move into it because of what we do here. All those things will be the measure for me in terms of whether I've actually done something that makes a difference for Hoosiers.
What would you say to Hoosiers who are excited about this announcement, about the possibility of the Bears coming here, but they want to know exactly what's in it for them?
Well, what should be in it for them is ask how many people that live in Indianapolis if they'd rather not have the Colts here. That's a rhetorical question. We know the answer. Having two iconic franchises in this state, especially this one, in the area that probably needs the most help for what I talked about earlier, you know, what Gary, Hammond, that whole area has gone through. I don't think we can have a more wonderful thing that has happened to take that one spot in our state, which is, it's got the second largest concentration of population. It is a place that is, it's a win-win. I think we're just lucky that we're where we're at.
I know you've said you've been talking with the team twice a week up until now. When will you be talking with the team again, and what is that conversation about?
We'll be talking to them twice again this coming week, and it's about the shrinking list of things that we need to get done to actually get the shovel in the ground.
So if you're a betting man, do the Chicago Bears end up in Hammond, Indiana?
So I think when I started, I called it 50-50. And maybe 3 weeks ago, I said 65-35. And the odds are with us now. And unless something would come out of the blue, which like I told you earlier, we will deal with, most of the heavy lifting, I think, is behind us.
Okay. Governor Mike Braun, thank you very much.
You're welcome.